If I only had 4 hours a day for my business, here's what I would focus on. Hi, I'm Yasmin Vorajee. I'm the creator and author of Tiny Time Big Results, where I help experts turn their expertise into a profitable 20-hour week business. And if you're like me, and maybe you've got a family, you've got young kids, maybe you've got elderly parents, you're in a full-time job, but you really want to build something that's yours, you want to maybe transition out of employment, or maybe because like me, you've just got young kids and you've got all these other things to be doing. You want your business to work in the time that you have. This video is absolutely for you because I've been in your position for the last 14 years. I was in corporate for 12 years beforehand, and for the last 14 years, I've been building my business with tiny time. When I started, my eldest was only a year old. He's nearly 16, and I've only ever had 3 to 4 hours a day in my business. So when they were in childcare, they were in creche for 3 hours, that was my time. So since I had my first, I have a daughter, I have a son, so they're now 15, 12, and 9. So everything that I'm going to be talking to you about today is really from my lived experience and the work that I have done with my clients, because I know this for sure. You know, whether there's a part of you that thinks, I don't think that's possible, I'm living proof that it absolutely is possible. I have the receipts to prove it as well. But what I want to share with you in this video is something that I know is going to help to make your life so much easier, because it's so easy as business owners to get into overwhelm, into burnout, into exhaustion, because you're trying to do too much. You know, when I was in corporate and we had an issue with our tech, you know, you rang technology, or you had an issue with finance, you rang finance. And then when you start your own business, you're it, your technology, your finance, your HR. And so it can easily pile up on you. But what I've learned is that when you do have limited time in your business, if you have only got that little pocket of time, then what you do, how you spend that time is absolutely crucial. And so in this video, I want to break down the 4 things that you should be focusing on in your business, or that's kind of what I would focus on if it is my business. It is my business. So do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's about making sure that you are focusing on the right things. And trust me, there will be a part of you that thinks, what about this? What about this? What about this, right? And I'm going to give you permission to ignore all of those things, right? Focus on the 4 things that I'm going to tell you about now, and feel free to ignore the other stuff, right? This is me giving you permission, not that you need it, but I'm going to give it to you anyway, because when you hear the 4 things, you might think, oh, that sounds a bit too simplistic. That's not going to work for me. And, you know, you'll have all the reasons why it won't work because I have to do X, Y, and Z. But what I want you to do is just embrace the idea that maybe you don't need to do all of those things. And if you just focus on these 4 core activities, then that is actually going to help you to build your business, build momentum in your business, grow your business, get you the clients that you want, so that you're able to do it in the time that you have, just like I have been doing for the last 14 years. So let's get straight into it. The first thing that you absolutely need, and this is something that I really struggled with in my own business for too long, I will add, right? The first thing that I absolutely struggled with, but what I want you to really kind of think about how important this is and to really get this nailed, is a magnetic message, right? So this message is about what you bring to the table, what you offer to your ideal client. And I want you to really think about this. Like, what's your zone of genius? What is it that you do that nobody else does quite like you do it, right? And the reason why I'm hammering this point is that you can be very generic and bland in your messaging, right? That happens all the time. You know, so you're a website designer, you're a copywriter, you are a photographer, right? And we tend to introduce ourselves with those labels, and we're like, oh, I'm a photographer, I'm a copywriter, I'm a website designer, or whatever it might be. I'm a business coach, right? However, that doesn't really tell me anything. That makes me put you into a bucket with all the other website designers, all the other photographers, all the other copywriters, right? What we want to do is we want to get really clear on what it is that you do and who you do it for. What's the problem you're solving? And I feel like this is the bit that we always miss, right? I know I certainly missed it. Is that when you start a business, business is all about looking around you in your world, and you're like, well, there's a problem, I can solve that. But what we tend to do is when we start a business, we go straight into solution mode instead of actually saying, ooh, I wonder what is the problem? What problem am I solving? And I feel like this can save you so much time, so many months and years if you really get clear in your mind as to what is the problem that you're actually solving, right? So what's the problem you're solving? Who are you solving it for? You're not for everybody, right? Let's just get that straight out of the way. You are not for everybody. There's a group of people that you can get a result for really quickly, right? And they're going to be the best group of people that you're going to start your work on, right? If you're sitting there looking at big names in your industry and you're like, but they're quite, they talk to everybody. They didn't start there. And that's a really important point. If you look at a Gary Vaynerchuk, he didn't start doing what he does now. He was running his, he was helping to market his family's wine business, right? Nobody starts off being really broad unless they've got some massive platform behind them, right? But if you're like me and you're like, well, I don't have any of those things. So then you think, okay, so who is that group of people that I can really help, right? So that's the first thing. You want to get really clear on your magnetic message, because I promise you, if you're finding yourself that you're like buying loads of Instagram courses or loads of LinkedIn things and you're trying to nail the platform without actually nailing your messaging, and you feel like, I've done all of these courses and none of it's helping and none of it's working, it's because the foundation isn't right. Because if you're just trying to get more followers on Instagram or more subscribers to your LinkedIn newsletter, but your messaging is all over the place, then it doesn't matter how good you are in LinkedIn, it's going to be difficult, right? For you to really build traction, for you to become really known for something, right? So that's what I want you to be thinking about, is like, what's the problem I solve, right? What is it that I'm actually doing in my business, and who am I doing this for, right? Now, this isn't something that you're going to be doing all the time. You're going to get really clear in your mind, and then you're going to stick to it, right? You're going to make a decision, right? You're going to commit to it, because that's one of the things that I was really bad at doing, was I'd make a decision and then I'd change my mind, make a decision, change my mind. So we're not going to do that. That's a pattern. If you do that in your business, then that's where we're breaking that right now, right? So your first of all is that message. The second thing that you want to focus on is having a high value offer in your business. If you've only got 4 hours a day in your business, right, you can't sell your time because you don't have much of it. So you need to create a high value offer where you're creating a transformation for somebody in a particular, so you're creating a transformation, and it could be a package, right? But it's not time bound, right? And what I would always say is minimum 1K, right? So in your business, think right now, what could I offer that would be, priced at 1K or above? Right? Because what that means is that if you've only got a few hours a day in your business, then you're not going to need that many clients. If your income goal is 3 to 5K, you don't need many clients. And, I think that we've been sold this message that you need to have this massive audience, when actually, if you only need a handful of clients every month, then just imagine how much less noise you're going to have to create in your business, right? How much less noise that you have to deal with, right? Because you're sitting there thinking, I don't need hundreds of clients. I just need a handful of high value clients, high value offers, and happy days, I'm building my business, right? So that high value offer. And this is the bit where people get really stuck on, right? Because they kind of go, right, well, how many sessions am I going to offer? Do they get email access, right? This is all the logistics side of things. I remember back in corporate when we used to do sales training and they talk about features and benefits, right? And people typically focus on the features, whereas I want you to think about the benefits. I want you to think about the outcome that someone is going to get from working with you. If you're clear in your mind as to what the outcome is going to be, then your life is going to be so much easier. Marketing that offer is going to be so much easier, because what people are looking for when they're talking to you, in your discovery calls, in your sales calls, they want to be able to hook onto what is the outcome that you are saying that you can help them to get. Not promising them anything, because it takes two, but what is the outcome that you're saying, I know I can help you get to that point, because that's your zone of genius. You already know how to do this. So you're like, I'm going to help you to create that one-page website that's going to be a fantastic conversion machine, right? So you want to be thinking about outcome. And outcome makes it creating a high-value offer far easier to create and to sell, okay? So you've got your magnetic message, right? If you've got 4 hours a day in your business, here's what I'd be focusing on, right? So you've got your magnetic message, you've got your high-value offer. The next thing is, I want you to think about, like, what's that one piece of content that you can create on a weekly basis that you can then repurpose and reuse in that week, right? So this is what I do. So when I create my videos, I take the audio, I upload the audio into my podcast, because I know there are people who consume my podcast who never look at the video, and there are people who look at the video, but they don't look at the podcast, right? So this is an opportunity for me to be able to reach two different types of audiences there. I also cut up this little video into like little 1 minute pieces, and I use that on social media, and I get them scheduled and off they go, right? But that's all from one piece of content, right? We've been told, and I've been doing this for a long time, we've been told for such a long time that you have to post this many times a day, and if you disappear, and then everything just comes collapsing around your ears, and you're like thinking, oh my god, this is not sustainable. Right? If you've only got a few hours a day in your business and you're sitting there, and if you're like me and you're like feeling guilty because you're looking at your phone and the kids are asking you for something, and you're like, oh, this is not why I started the business, right? So you want to be able to put the phone away and go, I already have done what I needed to get done today. I'm all about longevity. I'm all about sustainability. I am not going to be the one that tells you need to post 5 times a day, right? So one piece of content, let that one piece of content be a really good piece of content, but it does the heavy lifting for you, right? So that you can actually be on different platforms, but you are not feeling like, oh my god, now I've got to create that LinkedIn post, now I've got to create that Instagram post, and feel utterly burnt out. We're not here as content creators. We're here as business owners who are, telling the world what we do. And for those people that resonate, they come into our world and we work together. That's it. We're not here to serve algorithms, right? And then the fourth thing is make sure that every day you have revenue generation as a priority, right? I fear that this is the one that people shy away from, because they're like, oh god, it's actually about making money or asking for the sale, asking for money. But if you do not make revenue generating a priority every day, even if it's just for 20 minutes a day, where you're potentially talking to existing clients, looking for referrals, re-engaging people who maybe bought something a few months ago and you want to bring them back and maybe offer them something else. Maybe it's past clients that are not working with you right now, but you're like saying, oh, look, this is something that I'm doing. Whatever it is that you are doing right now, if you are not making revenue generation a priority, then it's going to make life really difficult for you, right? Because here's what I see. I see a lot of people kind of going, well, I'm building the website, I am doing my landing page, I am doing X, Y, and Z. So like they're hiding behind their laptops. And, they're like, oh, I'll get to that, but I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet, right? Classic. I know I've done it too, right? But the problem is that every time you do that, you are weakening your revenue generation muscle. And like any kind of muscle building, it's the repetition that actually makes you stronger. I remember seeing like, is it Liam Hemsworth? Is it Liam? No, Chris Hemsworth. I always get the two confused. Anyway, Chris Hemsworth was talking about how he'd like really bulked up for like the Thor films. And then within 3 weeks of not building muscle at that intensity, like they started to like shrink. I mean, like, it's not going to be that much because it's Chris Hemsworth, but you know, he really noticed a difference. It's the same thing with revenue generation, right? Because you want to make sure that you are building that muscle every single day. You are asking for the sale. You are, you know, inviting people, and that's really the way I look at it. It's not really that, you know, you're selling, although there's nothing wrong with that either. But you're inviting people to come and work with you. And there's a way that you can do that, which is elegant, which is not pushy, which is not manipulative or pushy or any of those types of things that we have associated selling with. But you're inviting them to come and work with you, right? Which is how money comes into your business, right? Because you can create content and more and more and more and more content until the cows come home, right? But if that's not getting you anything, then what's the point of doing all of that content? Like, content for content's sake is such a waste of time. Instead, focus on that one piece of content that is going to reach the people, right? But then you also need to have infrastructure to bring them into your world so that you can engage with them, that you can nurture them, right? These are all the things that I do with my clients. When my clients come and work with me, what we typically do is we work on that messaging first, right? So when I work with my client, Sarah, you know, and she was talking about what she wanted to do in her business, we got really clear that she was there for the business owners who were wanting to sell, merge, or retire their business. She is so clear in her focus right now, and everything that she is doing is downstream from that, because she knows, she's like, I've got this clear pathway. I just work the pathway. That's what I do, right? Every single one of my clients gets that level of clarity, and they're like, this is what I do. This is the problem I solve. This is who I solve it for. Here's my high value offer. Here's what my content is going to be about. And here's my revenue generating activity. And this is why they get results, right? One of the ways that I help you to do this is through my 4-hour planner. So if you have got 4 hours a day in your business, imagine that's the most productive 4 hours of your day, right? So what I want you to do is click the link below and you can get your hands on it for free. Grab the 4-hour planner and take a look and see how it's going to help you to make those 4 hours incredibly productive, help you to grow your business, help you to attract clients, and help you to grow momentum, right? Because what we're here for is a sustainable business, not a business that you're going to burn out in 3 months' time or 6 months' time. A business that has longevity, a business that is going to fit in with the time demands that you have. Like, my kids are still in school. We've still got tons of things that we have to get done in between everything else, right? If I only had 4 hours a day, which I do for my business, this is what I would focus on. So make sure you click the link below, grab your copy of the 4-hour planner, start using it, because that's where the magic happens. It's all about the implementation. It's all about the execution. Start using it. Let me know how you get on. I would love to hear from you. And comment below if this video has resonated with you, if you have gotten value from it. Make sure you like and subscribe and share it with somebody else that you think would also benefit. And I look forward to seeing you the next time. Take care.